Hello, my name is Jennifer, and welcome to Stories from the Earth. This is going to be episode 14, I believe. I want to say hello to Roma Miscati, who's joining us from Facebook. We are live on the Stories for the Earth YouTube channel, the Stories for the Earth Facebook group, and Seawool Herbs and Tarot YouTube channel. Later, we will be in audio form on Anchor. So if you're listening to this on Anchor, hello, welcome. If anyone has any questions for our guest, please pop them in the chat. Cool. So let's see. Let us start. So I'm going to read our little intro here. Why we are doing this. So mankind's relationship to the natural world is as diverse and dynamic as each individual plant, animal, mineral, and piece of geography. There are many ways that we can engage with our living planet, be it through herbalism, gardening, hiking, and other explorations, meditation, and observation, and even artistic expressions. There are many ways for us to connect, and it is important to do so, as the human species is not a separate entity from the whole web of life. Each takes their own path. This series explores some of the many ways in which people may weave a tapestry of meaning in coexistence and mutuality with what surrounds us. These are the stories for the earth. Cool. So, I'd like to introduce our guest, Lori Jenkins, she is a herbalist, a kitchen herbalist and kitchen witch. She makes amazing herbal products, and she has a business called Sister of Mother Earth, which we'll chat all about. So let's do. All right. Hello.
Hi.
Welcome this morning.
Snowy morning.
It's snowy. We all got some amount of snow. Some of us more than others. So
yeah.
Yes, Roman. I know you're on you're on YouTube. Yes. We are streaming in 3 places live to make everything complex. So Roman says hello. She's watching on YouTube. So cool. Shall we jump right into it?
All right.
Cool. Multi-streaming, yay. Yeah. Let the computer do the multitasking, right?
That's right.
Oh my gosh. All right. So what was your herbal education like, and why did you decide that you wanted to pursue this path?
Over a decade ago, I just kept getting promptings that we needed to really work on being able to manage our health on our own. I know that sounds a little extreme, but I just had these nudges, start growing your own food, start growing your own herbs, do these things. And we were big time like library people. I was homeschooling my kids, and but I had a friend say something to me about a conference that was going on every year in Black Mountain, and that was Wise Woman. And that first year that I found out about it, I wasn't able to go, but after that, I went for years. And then I started taking my daughter, who, when she got a little older, and that's where I started meeting people. I met Asia Suler, I met Becky Bayer, Julia Blankenspore. I just, had all these people that I admired and loved taking classes from them. So that's kind of where I jumped off from.
Yeah, and that's the Southeast Women's Herbal Conference. It's in Black Mountain. It's every year. This year is a strange year because of COVID, but I have attended 2 of them, and they're just a really fantastic way to like be introduced to like this herbal thing, and it's very like friendly, open. There's a lot of classes you can just sort of dip your toe in. I took a fantastic class with Juliet, and it's just like I was like, whoa, I learned like so much in like a tiny span of time. So
sad right now it's not going on right now. I don't really know what's going to happen with the conference, but there are others in the country. I would love to go to the Northeast one. But that's kind of where it started, and then I took the Chestnut School of Herbal Medicine. I did their foraging course a couple of years ago, the first year that it came out. And that's where the business kind of really started, and I just kind of moved forward with that. And that same year, I took Asia Suler's plant intuitive medicine class, and that was really, really good, her course. And I think that's still going. Now I think you can actually sign up all the time now for that one.
Okay.
At that time, you could only do it during one time of the year. So both of those were just really, it just made me focus more on what I wanted to do. I wanted to focus more on food and herbal food, and that being my medicine.
Because herbs can be used as food in like a huge way. That's a huge component of how you can actually take your herbs. And it all ties into like the health stuff, and it's just there's a real close connection. So I'll post those links if anyone's interested in any of those courses, because I believe at least Juliet's school, the Chestnut School, is all online now.
Right.
And I'm assuming Asia's is online as well.
It is.
And they're both really good places to start your journey. And I think also right now during COVID, all the herb schools are online. So, start now, and then later on when we can have in person, find your in-person class and go for it. I would say that would be a great thing. So, well, that's awesome. That's a great way. That was a great introduction. We have so much fabulous resources here in our area. And I want to go to more herbal conferences too. So maybe one day.
Yeah.
Maybe one day, and that could be like another thing for this podcast. I would definitely love to just. Anyway, I'm going off topic, but herbal conferences are really great, and I would advise anyone who's interested to grab your your closest herbal conference. And there's a bunch. There just seems to be more popping up. So so just your thoughts on what your idea of who an herbalist is and what an herbalist does. Just from like your perspective, your ideas about that.
I feel like an herbalist is also a caretaker, and it's really something that out of all the herbalists I've ever been around and met, they all have that same common trait, that they are caretakers of the plants, and they're either tending their own gardens, they're either tending their own apothecary, they're tending their herbs with their community. So they're all caretakers, and that's what they're doing. And that's kind of what I feel like I do, because I started off being a caretaker of my family,
right?
And then kind of branched out. And for several years, I just made things for people, and I enjoyed the making medicine part. And I feel like that really hit my tending drive for being an herbalist. And I enjoy that part. I enjoy taking care of things. And I think a lot of herbalists do.
Yeah, I mean, it's really funny because I also fall into that that role, especially like I find myself, so I used to work for a big brand health food store, and I worked in the whole body section, and so that was my job, is to like, offer help people in that way. But I found in my new job, which has nothing to do, I'm not doing anything close to herbal stuff, which I would love to do for my whole job. But right now, I find that I'm doing that. Like, people, it just happens where like I'm helping someone with her hand, and it's all like, because of the work we do, her hand, like we do a lot of grasping and it's very physical, and her whole hand is swollen up because of the use of it, and so I'm like, and she's also interested in the the herbal stuff too, but it's like I'm still acting in the same role somehow. It's just like some lady had a humongous bruise. I'm like, I'll just make you a salve, and so long story short, yeah, totally, and I get it, and I definitely see it. I think it's something that is a definite large component of what an herbalist does. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Most gardeners are caretakers, and they eventually lead into herbalists. I mean, that's just kind of how that works. And I think that's part of the process with the plants with us. Little by little, our heart opens a little bit more every time we create even more relationships with each plant. And that just is the byproduct.
You can't not. It's just like the plants are like, hello, we're here. And they're like super patient. They're like, oh gosh, humans are so insane. But that dandelion is still there. And it's like looking at you. You're like, okay.
How you doing? Work together.
I remember Karina Wood told a story about how she started out, and she was doing gardening, and they were pulling out these plants, and she was like, what are these plants that we're pulling out of the garden? And they turned out to be medicinal plants. So I was just, she was like, what am I like? Why are we doing? What's going on here? And it's just.
That's true. That is true. That's what happens.
That's just what happens. And I dropped something. I have some ADD, so I find it's helpful to hold some crystals while I'm chatting, just to help. Like, so that was one of them, just sort of rolling away. It's fine. I got plenty.
There you go.
That was the tiger's eye. So what is your favorite aspect about working with plants? If we might have already answered that one, but.
Well, I actually like making medicine. That's probably my favorite aspect of working with plants. I love to forage. That would be number 2. And just sitting with them. I do a lot of that. So, but making medicine would definitely be like number 1. And I enjoy learning like different uses with them and things to do. And I'm always amazed at how many things you can do with just one herb.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My husband is he works as he works as a pharmacy assistant. I don't know. He works, but he doesn't work. He works at home. But anyway, he deals with the pharmaceutical and the patients, and so and we're all used to like the pharmaceuticals being like made for one purpose, right?
Yeah.
But it's a whole different. The herbs are all the whole different idea, because they're multi-purpose.
True.
Which is really neat. Like, I can take it for this, and it also acts on this. you know, so a whole different way of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, like take for instance chickweed, which is one of my favorite herbs. I mean, you can do all kind of things with it. You can eat it.
Yep.
Just like a salad. It's absolutely delicious. You can put it in some oil and use it as a salve. It's fantastic for that too. You can put it in water, make a tea. I mean, like there's just so many different things to do with like just one plant. I just, yeah, I'm amazed every day. Because I'm like a student all the time. I love school. I know that sounded crazy. And
no, I did too.
I love school. I love learning. And just like I can tell in your house, I have stacks.
Oh, do you see all the books? Like there's more. There's
Yep.
Yeah. We need
I'm constantly reading, and it's not books like like stories. They're all like instructional and nonfiction. And I mean, I'm just that kind of nerd, but I love, learning all the time. And I try to stay in some sort of learning course all the time because I feel like I don't have enough time in this lifetime to learn it all. So I need to keep learning.
Get on it.
Yep.
Yeah. I definitely feel the same way. They're all like herb books, and then I've got like some on the Audible because I can listen to them at work. And that's, I mean, one of the reasons we're going to have a book component of this podcast is because of the learning and the I mean, apparently, part of being a Libra is having like the big head deal, and you're always like thinking, and which is a good that I have a physical job because this is more. There's a lot, and that's cool. Yeah, I need bookcases definitely. I feel like it's gonna topple right on them.
I just have them everywhere. They work for, I don't.
Yeah,
I've
got
bookshelves, but they don't stay on the bookshelves.
Right, I can pull them all out, and which would be nice when we move. I might have a space to just sort of leave stuff going, and
I know my husband will be like, "This smells like a new book, Lori. Is it a new book?" I'm like, no,
I got that years ago. I just
not reading it.
I love it's like it smells like a new book. I can smell it all the way over here.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll sneak them in. We have a fun money budget, and I'll be like, it's for the podcast.
All the books.
Yes. It's for work. I'm just
yeah.
Just so do you have like a book wish list that you like? Do you like have a list of books you want to buy or get or interested somewhere, or you just sort of like see a book and you're like, I think I'm going to get that one. Yeah,
that's how it works. I used to keep a list, and then I'm like, I just buy them. I justify it somehow, and I just buy it. But I used to, like every one of them I touch within a week, so it's like, I gotta have them.
yeah. I have a list.
Yeah. I do have some favorites. I know that was one of the questions. You want me to go ahead since we're talking about books?
Yeah, we'll just jump. Usually I do. Yeah, let's just jump on the books, and then we'll come back to the other questions. I was just asked, since I think books are just an important component to herbalism, and I think it's just because maybe it's because we have not a lot of availability to like a teacher, or it's hard to, apprenticeships don't really exist
Mm-hmm.
in the way that I would like them to be.
Yeah.
They cost money, and then sometimes you have to live on the land, and that's like, unaccessible for some of us. But I think that, it's the learning aspect.
Right.
Okay, so shoot, we're ready.
So I have 2 sets.
All right.
So the first one is actual like herbal books. And, it's funny, when I was taking that foraging course with Chestnut, those that lived in the area were allowed to go, like they did a little get together at Juliet's place. And, we spent like an afternoon there, and we were in her like office library room. And all of us were like taking pictures of all their books because she's got lots of great books. But I was like, wow, I actually have a lot of these. I'm really excited. But I will say some of my favorites. I don't have it like right in front of me, but I have some of the other ones. But the one that I use a lot is Richo Check's Making Plant Medicine. I use that one probably every single time I start something, just because
I don't have that one. I want it.
Well, he's done the work for you, so you don't have to do the work. You don't have to know, how much alcohol needs to go, or the percentage of alcohol into the. I mean, like, he's done all that, and he's got it listed, and it's great. It's a good resource.
Yeah.
I love Abby's book. That's probably, and the reason I like Abby's book is because it's very down to earth. And I got this just a couple of years ago.
I'm gonna hold on. I'm gonna put these some of the links up for us. So I'm gonna get so everyone can. So this is, I've got Making Plant Medicine up, and then Abby's. What is
the Herbal Handbook for Homesteaders?
Right.
I like hers because she's got a lot of information here. She's got like charts and, different things about when to go foraging. And I mean, like, and it's plants that are here in Western North Carolina. I like that too.
Yeah.
That's another aspect of just me as an herbalist and as a medicine maker and a business owner. I want to use what's here. I'm trying to reduce how much I bring in from other places. Because I think, that's part of being sustainable. And she really focused a lot on that. And I appreciate that.
2 books that are on my list that I do not have.
So anything Rosemary Gladstar, of course. But one of my favorites is the Herbal Healing for Women. She has
a fantastic.
She has a great Materia Medica in the back, which is really nice. Most herbal books do have Materia Medicas, and I appreciate that because I'm like I said, I'm a schoolie. So like, I love Materia Medica. I love writing it all down and having it all in one place. That's just part of my practical side.
And she just, so this is I've got like 2, this is one of the books I had to get 2 copies because my book, I had used it so much, it was falling apart.
Yeah, the pages come out they can come out pretty easy if you use it so much.
So let's see. Okay.
But it's a good one. It's got lots of great recipes and things to do.
It was one of the first books I found any information about fibroids. It's a little difficult to find them.
And she talks a lot about endometriosis because I deal a lot with that. So there's a great section in that for that. A Modern Herbal.
Yes.
Both volumes. I use it all the time. I love Grieve. She's got some, she's a very intuitive and intelligent human being that wrote some great stuff for herbs.
Yeah, this is an oldie, but a goodie. And there's 2 volumes, and you can very easily get it.
And the cool thing is she gives a lot of like cultivation and just like general where this grows best. And I mean, like, I think that's important too, you know, if you're looking to actually grow some of your own herbs. And then last but not least, Robin Rose Bennett. I have several of hers. I love her very, very much. And one of the reasons that I like her so much is she does focus some on kitchen medicine, which is where I am. This is what I do. So
that's the gift of herbal.
The gift of healing herbs. Robin Rose Bennett. And she's come to Wise Woman several times. She's a big teacher for Wise Women. Now to go on the other side of what I do, because I do, you know, kitchen witch, I do kitchen magic. That's just what I do. I have a couple of books that I really use a lot and I kind of go back to often. So of course, Byron Ballard's.
Yes.
And she just came out with a new one. And I'm going to get it.
We ordered. Yes. We are going to be at least doing a chat about that on this podcast. And then we want to, we're talking, asking to have her on. So
I found out about her through Wise Woman, and I've done a lot of my genealogy, and my dad's side of the family, and he immigrated here from the British Isles and settled in Spring Creek. And when I met Byron, she was teaching a Scotch-Irish class on herbalism. And I went up afterwards and was like, let me tell you some stories. And, you know, because her family, that's the same as her family. Her family just stayed here. Mine didn't. Mine kind of scattered to the wind when my dad got a little older. But it's interesting, some of the things that I was raised on, she talks about in a lot of her books. And I never even realized that was, you know, I don't know. I just thought that was just the way it was. So, I mean, her books are very, very informative, and they're very easy to read, which is what I like. You know, for most, you can sit, like I sat down in one night and just read this one. I mean, they're just super easy to read, but those are really good books to have, especially a lot of kitchen magic. And I feel like that's a good place to start.
Yeah, and especially if you live in, we got to get comments.
Yeah. Do we have comments?
No, I am just doing, I'm doing links.
Oh, good. Okay.
Everything. Yeah. Hello, Bobby. Oh, we did have a comment. Okay. Bobby's on. Smoky Fantastic. Welcome. We are doing books today. So, yeah, so this is Scott Cunningham.
Oh yeah, this one. This one is fantastic. I open this up all the time. And it would be lovely if like I could remember everything I read. But I don't remember. That's why my books are everywhere, because I'm like, wait a minute, what did that do again? You know, because I just don't remember. So it's nice to have these books. I also have this one right here, which is a really fun book.
Hedge Witch Book of Days.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
This one's a good beginners. Like you can, it gives like each month and the correspondences for it, and just some activities and recipes that are really good. And then there's also another book, and Full Moon Feast. I don't know if the gal that wrote this book. No, I take that back. There was a teacher at Wise Woman years ago, and I think it was my first year. She taught a lot out of this book, and it's Full Moon Feast, and it's about eating around the moon and the phases of the moon. And that was life-changing. Yes.
I hope I spelled that right. I'm going to look that one up. I don't have that one on my...
I've read that book, I think it's right over here, 3 times. Let me grab it.
Ooh, Food and Hunger for Connection. That sounds awesome.
Well, and it gives really great, I'm sorry, I'm trying to grab the book. As you can tell, I have them everywhere. This one right here.
Yeah.
And it is such a good book. Oh my gosh, I love this book. In fact, one of my kids gave it to me for a holiday gift, and they wrote like this really sweet message in it about cooking and being mindful and intuitive. And, you know, I have several friends who are very, very intuitive with their food. And that's medicine in itself.
It definitely, I have digestive, and it's a large component is food.
Yeah.
How, it's really important.
It's important to understand where your food's coming from, because I'm like a huge proponent of farmers markets and farmers. I serve on 2 boards of markets around here. People need to really start to refocus where their food is coming from. And I know, listen, I'm guilty. There are times where I just go to Aldi, get my groceries, because I'm just not prepared sometimes. But it is important to really start moving closer to home to get your food. And people have just gotten out of sync and out of touch with where their food comes from, and that's where disease comes from, and part of it,
and stress.
So we've got to really start changing our minds, and that book really changed my mind for a lot of things.
And for me, like, my body made me do it. Like, I had to change. And it is challenging. And, I really have a very, like, veggies and some meat. And I eat seeds and I eat nuts, and I have a little bit of millet bread. There's a beautiful gluten-free pumpernickel bread at Whole Foods, which is amazing.
Yes.
So I have a little bit of that, but I, occasional super dark chocolate, but I can't, like, I have to eat like that, but for everyone else, so, like, it's like, it looks like I'm being super good and super, like, on it, but there's a huge reasons why I can't cheat. I can't, I have to do this way. So, but for everyone, and it's still hard. I'm like, hey, I want that pizza. Oh, we had to work some overtime at work, and they had pizza. And I can't have it. So one of the ladies was like, there's pizza in there. I'm like, yeah, I know. And she's like, and brownies and cookies. And I was like, I can't have any of that. Yeah. I'm like, thank you for rubbing in the cookies and the brownies and the, and then she's like, there's peppers. And I'm like, are they hot? She's like, yeah. So she was really digging deep on she's like, you can have the pepperoncinis. I was like, no.
Bad day.
So, I'm just eating my food, which, it's like some chicken and some veggies and some flax and some, which is good food, but it's still very hard to.
It's still hard. Yeah.
It's still hard. But I think this book is really good because I think we're so removed, like, and I don't think we really even realize it. The first time I saw Brussels sprouts in a stalk at the grocery store.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I didn't even know it grew like that. Like, so awesome suggestion. Awesome book. I would love to check it out.
Yeah.
So,
do.
Cool.
Worth the money.
All right. Was there any more?
I don't think I brought any more out. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, I did. So this one is a great book, even though I don't identify as pagan. Ancient Ways. So this goes through the wheel of the year, and it gives some great recipes. It also gives just some different things that you can do throughout the year, especially in the kitchen. Women did a lot of things in the kitchen back then. We still do, but times were a little different then. And that's a really good book to focus on the changing seasons and the wheel of the year. And I use it a lot.
Again, it can help reconnect us. Even if, you don't identify as as Pagan.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's important. Cool. Awesome. You know, and herbalism really, herbs and really is a intersection of like food and medicine and all, and then the magic and the a little bit of woo and all that stuff in
Yeah.
it all in the one.
Yes.
So,
It's cauldron. It all goes.
it all goes in. So, all right, cool. Well, all the links are up in the chat, and then if I am able to, I will put them in the description later on. But they are up, and so those are awesome. I do love how like you've got all the angles sort of nicely covered.
Yes.
And I do always like new ones to add to my list.
Yes.
So and then all right. So what is the most challenging thing about working with plants?
Timing.
Timing
is the biggest thing for me, and I'm sure it is for a lot of different herbalists, especially those that have businesses dealing with herbs. You know, right now it's just me running my business, and you know, in the beginning, I had time to forage and I had time to do these things, and because you know, you may have time to forage, but you always have to take into account the processing time.
Yeah.
And especially if you are harvesting enough for a certain amount of time, you know, you've got to have time to process. And I know last year was a real challenge for me. And I learned some things last year because, you know, when COVID hit, my business got busier, and it was just very overwhelming. And typically in the springtime is when I do a lot of my foraging.
Yeah.
And sometimes even before the markets open. And last year it was I almost couldn't do that. I had to really source a lot from other places, and which is not bad either. But I think it does give me that disconnect that that was the whole reason why I started this business. And I've had to reevaluate some of that. And I'm hoping this year I can hire a few folks.
That's exciting.
I know. I did hire my son last year, and he was good for me to like practice paying someone and just getting into that rhythm. And I actually upped his, gave him a little raise for this year. So, but I do feel like I probably am going to need another set of hands. So we'll see. I'm working on that.
Yeah. I think one of the issues with, or one of the things that, you know, I've run into is there's a lot of people who want to do herbalism, but the jobs are not there. So that is exciting that you would be able to take on and pay somebody else. That's great. So that you can do that wild crafting that you want to do.
Because you're right. Like most of us want that one-on-one interaction, or, you know, in a group, face-to-face.
Definitely.
And obviously with COVID, we couldn't do it. But even before that, sometimes you're right. You have to either go live there, or it's a lot of time that you have to give, which you need to if that's what you're doing. But you don't have it. You either got to work, you've got life.
Kids. Yep.
And even for us right now, we just have one vehicle as a family. And, you know, although COVID is going on still, like everybody's at home right now, which has been really a blessing. But a lot of people don't have that opportunity and don't have the time. And, you know, I just feel like that's where herbalists that have businesses, if you've got time and you're able, you really need to take people in to do this, because otherwise they're not going to get it. You know, they're not going to be able to get it anywhere.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's kind of my thing. And I do have people occasionally that will contact me and say, hey, whenever you start looking for someone, will you keep me on the list? And I do have a list. And when I'm ready for that, I'll just send it out to them and see if they're still interested.
I'm going to put my name on the list. I mean, I had to go back to work, and I was fortunate because I was laid off. I had worked a job where I was working for 5 years, and I had just transitioned into another job before COVID. And then, of course, I got laid off, and I was off for 5 months, and I was just like, what am I going to do? Unemployment's running out. I was lucky to find the job I'm currently working on and they're super busy. Just fortunate. So I am totally working. I'm totally working outside the house. I am like, my husband is working from home, which is good. But yeah, I would still want to be on the list because herbal, the herbs are where are where my heart is and where I want to be, so
I get it. And now I actually need the help. In the beginning, I wasn't as busy. I didn't have as many, customer, it's the beginning of a business.
Right.
But now my product volume has gone up and I really need just a couple more hands. So we'll see. I'm working through all of that right now.
We'll see. We'll talk later.
Yeah.
Even if it's like one day here, one day there.
Right.
I mean, for me, anyway. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. But that's awesome. If anyone is interested, contact Lori. So don't take my spot, but whatever. But yeah, that's really great and very exciting. Because that's one of the reasons for the podcast is that I think people have a lot of questions about, like, I get the herbal education. What do I do with it? How do I proceed from, there and you and us Savior shrubs.
Yeah.
They're growing, and I think that they're going to be able to probably take on some more help at some point, and so that's really exciting. And so hopefully we'll just grow this herbal jobs and everything. So.
And it's not, when I first started, I'm just like, make medicine. That's what I want to do. But, I'm a very right brain person, and this left brain life has been really difficult for me, and I've made some mistakes. But, it's a lot of work, especially in this area, because we have so many good herbalists that are making and doing. And, you just really have to make your way, and sometimes it's hard. And the good thing that I've noticed about this area is that everybody's very welcoming. Everybody's very supportive. Most people are wanting to help the other person because they understand that mission, because they have it as well. So, but those first few years were really hard. I was gone all the time. And I did a lot of work, but you have to if you're going to make it a business.
Yeah. I can make the medicine, but the business part, because I had an Etsy shop. It's on vacation right now. I'm not sure what I'm doing with it. I had people really like my products and everything else. It kind of I never sold enough to get sort of over that hump, and of course then I had a health crisis and everything else. But and then I remember I was wholesaling to a shop downtown, and I couldn't meet her demand, and also I had a hard time finding help. Like, I was like, hey, just people that I was working with at my day job, and they were interested. I'm like, I'll teach you stuff, and you'll help me, and it'll be good, and you'll learn. But they'd always fall through.
Right.
I guess it was just something about, like, I'm not saying everyone's like that.
Right.
But it was just when it started.
Right. No, I totally
like just who I was, just happened to, like, have come up to me and say, hey, I'm interested, and I don't know why. It was just some bad luck, and and everything else. And so it just fell through because, so I needed help. I couldn't do it on my own, even though I was only working at my other job part-time. It was too much because it takes a lot of time.
It takes a lot of time. And then, even though I've been trained in, one way of making it, there's another completely different way as far as legality goes.
Right.
And, that has been a big learning curve for me. And I'm, it's been crazy because I'm like, well, we've always done it this way. That you can't do it that way. You got to do it this way. You got to make your stuff here and you got to do this. And I mean, and although I'm so supportive of every herbalist that's working because, there's not enough of us making enough medicine. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that need medicine, but if you're going to make it a business, you got to do it right. And because the world is not a very fair place.
No.
And people are not fair and not honest. And, you have to really be careful, especially if you're making stuff at home and trying to sell it, you got to be careful. And, that's the way I started in the beginning when I first started making my own medicine. I was making stuff at home. But now, especially now that I'm in some bigger stores and some grocery stores and things like that, you can't do that. You just absolutely, right. And it's hard. That transition from moving from making stuff at home.
That's what I could not do.
That's the big hump. That's the hard hump. And, it took me, some really working out to get through all of that. And that's another thing, like, as herbalists, we want to make all the things.
All the things. Like that was one of the hardest parts is like, what do I make? I can make so much stuff. For me, like I'm good with salves. I'm good with lip balms. I'm good with body care. So that's the direction I took, oils, infused oils. I'm fantastic at making fresh infused oils.
Good.
They're very tricky, right?
Yes, they are. But I mean, that's what we want to do. We want to make all of these things because we love it. And that's how I started. When I was going to farmers markets, I had all this stuff on my table, but I wouldn't sell enough of each different one. So I took test drive with Mountain Bizworks 2 years ago. Oh. And that was probably one of the biggest things that catapulted my business because I had access to all these different coaches. And I would be like, oh, hey, I want to know more about this. And they'd put me with someone. And, well, anyway, we narrowed down to what I was making. Now, within what those things are, I do make different blends. But I really focus on, the oil, vinegar, honey. Those are my things. And, I do have some things that I sell for wholesale, but I had to really tailor down to my main products because when you start adding in all these other products, you're losing money. Yeah. As a business, you're losing money. And then it's like that, whole thing. If you're not going to be good at, if you spread yourself out too thin, you're not going to be good at anything.
And I think all of us find our little herbal niche. Like over time, we're like, oh, I'm really good at lotions, or I'm terrible at I can do lotions. I'm really good at oil and water. Oh, wait. No patience. Just, or someone's really good at tincture making, or someone's really good at like, like the salves, or there's other, or like dry herbs, like, but let us jump ahead again. Since we were talking about your business, let's just, so tell us, your business is called Sister of Mother Earth. So tell us about your business, how and why you started it, how did the name come about, and then more of like what products you make, and just since we're already chatting, let's just go further.
So a couple of years ago, my husband lost his job that he had for about 20 years.
Oh, wow. And
our whole life changed. Everything changed. We had to sell our home. We had to do all kind of crazy things. And my oldest kiddo was going to UNCA. And, we had lived here about 20 years ago. We got married here in Mars Hill 20-something years ago. And we've always wanted to come back. This was like our favorite place to be. And this was it. This was like one of those moments where, you know, he had been looking for a job for about a year, and he was just overqualified. He had his master's and nobody wanted to pay him, you know. So we were like, you know what? This is it. This is it. Let's just move. We've always wanted to come back. Let's go. So we took a really large leap of faith.
I'm sorry. I don't know if I missed it. Did you say where you were before?
We were in Travelers Rest, South Carolina.
Oh, okay.
And had been there for about a decade. So, you know, we were pretty established. Our family's from that area. But we love the mountains. That's just kind of our thing. So we packed everything up and moved to Trust, which I don't know if you know where that is.
No, I have no idea.
So it's in Madison County, but it's way up.
Okay.
And it's right next to the Tennessee border, and it's very near Max Patch, and which was one of my fave places to go. And like, I fell in love with that area. But anyway, you know, that's kind of where it started, because I was kind of stuck at home. It was the winter of 2017. I don't know if you remember that winter, but it was real snowy and real cold.
Don't remember.
Yeah, it was crazy. And I just remember, like, my husband would be gone during the week working somewhere else. And it was just me and the two younger kids. And I just was scheming. That's where I signed up for Juliet's thing. And, you know, I just said, okay, I've always wanted to do this. I don't know what I'm doing, but we're going. You know, we're just, because it was the kids were older, and I just felt like I could put that energy and time into building this. So I loved foraging. That was probably one of my biggest things. And I loved food. So it was like, okay, let's put the two together and bring foraged foods to the markets. So like I, you know, brought finishing salts that had wild herb in them. I brought the fire ciders that had wild herb in them. I did a lot of different stuff, honeys that had herbs in them, and kind of started there. I loved it, you know, and it was funny because I went to my very first market meeting. It was January 2018. I didn't know a soul. I had never sold at the farmer's market. And the next thing I know, I'm on the board. I was like, what the hell am I doing? And it just kind of went from there, and it was great. You know, I met a lot of really good people. We moved closer to town, to Mars Hill a couple of months later, and things just kind of fell into place. And then I had some really great friends that own businesses that offered to, like, you know, let me sell my products there, and it just kind of took off.
Nice.
Yeah, and Madison County has been really great. They've really supported me. The extension office has. You know, it's just been a really great endeavor, you know, and I was glad I got to do it.
I love out there. I grew up in Alexander on the border between Buncombe and Madison County. I just love that area. Yeah. We had like 3.5 acres.
Oh, nice.
And our family moved from Brooklyn, New York.
Wow.
You know, but my mom had a garden, and we had like goats and chickens and just all kinds of stuff. And I ended up just, it was a tiny bit of adjustment, even though I was 9, and then I fell in love, and that's it.
Yeah, there's just nothing else you can do about it. And I knew I wanted to be in this area just because of how many other people were farming and homesteading. Because when we were in South Carolina, we did a lot of that. We had chickens. We had a huge garden. And the thing about it was, we lived in a spot that was not like a normal, like our house was in a hill. We had to terrace everything.
Okay.
So we had, like, you know, terrace gardens, and
it looked really pretty, but
it was work. I was very sad to leave it. But we produced a lot of food out of that garden. And that was, you know, just kind of where things started cultivating. And I actually started growing like herbs. That was the first thing that I did when we moved there and built those gardens, was herbs. Because there were some things that physically and that we needed to heal. And that's just where it began. And I wanted to be in a place that cultivated that love. And there's a lot of people here that farm and our homesteaders, and I just love that very much. Even though right now the home that we're in, we're not able to do that. We do have a small garden, and I do grow some of my herbs. We're just not. We're surrounded by trees, so we just don't have a lot of sunlight where we are. But we'll find it one day. We'll find a piece of land someday.
Yeah, I mean, there's land out there. I mean, I'm in town right now. I've got a couple pots on our balcony.
That's good. Yeah.
But I mean, one of the houses we're looking at has like an acre of land. But when we moved here, our neighbors were very welcoming.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the weirdos from the Yankees.
That's all right.
You know, so you know, it was just like, you know, they really did like embrace us, and then we became part of the community. You know, so I think that that sort of rubbed off with the herbalists and the herbal community in this area as well, even if they have come in from out of town. You know, it sort of feels like a convergence because we've got like several herb schools and like all kinds of stuff. We have a very biodiverse area. So it's like the people came because of the plants were here.
Oh, I know. Like, it's funny how I'm like, because we used to grow mushrooms. We enjoyed doing that. And in fact, we really do have a great place to do that here. But I'm like,
you got the woods and the.
Mm-hmm. But I'm like, there's so many great people, you know, harvesting mushrooms and selling them. And I'm like, I'm just going to support them right now. I just need to let somebody else do that besides me.
I can do something else.
Yeah, just like ferments. You know, I love fermented foods and I love making fermented foods. Sometimes I'm successful, sometimes I'm not. But I'm like, you know what? I know so many people that make really good ferments. I'm just going to let them do it. You know, I mean, and even tinctures, you know, even though I've got several that I make for us, I don't spend a lot of time doing that as much as I used to. I'll let somebody else do it and just support them. Just because you know, we've got to really work on where we put our energy, you know, and like I said, as herbalists, we want to do all the things.
All the things.
Our default, you know why. We should not do that.
No, we should not do that. It's like majoring in school, you know, you got to major in something.
Correct.
Which would help if we had like an herb school that was more designed like that. So then people would actually like be like,
yes.
You know. Anyway, so how did the name come about?
Well, my kids were I actually came up with that name years before the business started.
Oh, okay.
And my kiddo drew like this. I don't know if anybody remembers, but I had, you know, a different label a couple years ago. And my oldest kiddo actually drew that label, and I paid somebody to actually make a logo out of it. But I wanted it to be a little witchy. I wanted it to be something connect with Mama Earth, and I wanted it to feel sisterly. So that's just kind of how it came about. And I've had it a long time, so I love it. You know, and you know, it's funny because the people who mostly comment are older men. They'll go, Sister of Mother Earth. So like, you're her. Are you the aunt or something? I don't know. They say crazy things, but it's always like men that say that.
They just get tripped up. Women are like, yeah, I get it.
You know, whatever, you know, but
I get it totally. But yeah,
I do feel like it's like a community type thing. And, you know, that's part of the business aspect because, I actually have a lot of other people's products in my products. And I feel like it's very important to create that community. And I feel like that name encompasses that because we're all here on this earth together. And typically, like I said before, herbalists are caretakers. So we're all caretaking together.
That's right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you did mention briefly about some of the products that you make and sell. Could you go into like some more details, some more specifics?
Yeah.
About that?
I make several fire ciders, and it's interesting because I don't know if it was Rosemary. I don't know where I heard this, but they're like, don't sell or make anything that you haven't taken, and I believe that. So like all of the fire ciders I have made at some point in my early beginning for some reason. So like the Heartbeat fire cider, which is my favorite. I started making something very similar to that in the very beginning because we have heart disease on my dad's side, and I feel like I'm very built like that side of the family. I feel like I have some of those traits. So I started making that and taking it. So that's where that one came from. Roots and Shrooms, I was making something that had a lot of bitter herbs in it for my husband because he deals with a lot of GERD and acid reflux. And so that one came to be. And then the Queen of Thieves is the one I actually started making for friends because it's real tasty. It's got lots of, fun herbs, sage, oregano, thyme that we use a lot in cooking. So, all of those were things that I have taken and used over the years. And then I started playing a little bit more and making some other ones that I really enjoyed, like a siren song. It's not as popular as some of the other ones, but the people who take it love it because it's weird. It's a way weird fire cider. Because it's got spirulina, it's got local stinging needles, and local red clover. So it's one of those things where if you're a spirulina person, you're a spirulina person.
Is it green? Is it green?
And that was another thing because if you've met me, I wear lots of color, and my favorite color is purple. And when I make my fire ciders, I want a lot of color. So like when they're sitting there brewing, I've got green and purple and reds and yellows. And I mean, I love that. I love visually seeing that because I feel like there's magic just even in color. And then last year, no, it might've been the year before, I started making a blend called a Witch's Brew. And, it just came to me during a new moon. I can't even remember. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to call Raven and Crone and say, hey, will you sell this product just at your store? And Lisa did. I mean, she was wholehearted. She was like, bring it on. She did tell me, she's like, I want to taste it because some fire ciders taste funky. And I was like, yes, I will bring you some. So I made that one just for them for a long time. And then when COVID happened, I had all these batches and I just had to open it up. So now that one is only at Raven and Crone. Yeah, the Witch's Brew. Raven and Crone, at Earth Magic, and of Wand and Earth.
Because I did notice it's not on your website. You have the other three. So
because I feel like as
or four.
Yeah. Right. The four are on the website. We really need to be supporting other witches, and I feel like that's a really good way because they have to go to those stores and buy that product. And that's supporting me, that's supporting them. And I think that's a great way to cultivate that relationship and put that kind of energy into that product. It's a really good product and I enjoyed making it. And it was just one of those, it just came to me, like the herbs that were supposed to be in it. Like I remember my daughter was watching me do the first batch and she's like, what is this stuff you're making? And I'm like, I don't know. I just feel called to make it. I got to make it.
What is in it? Sorry if you said that already.
It's got white pine in it, stinging nettles, ashwagandha, basil. Well, I've switched over to holy basil, but it's mugwort. It's got mugwort, but it's got lots of grounding herbs, which I feel is important to go in a blend like that. But I love fire cider. Yes. So and today is World Fire Cider Day.
Is it really? Well, that's awesome.
What a great day on Inbox.
And they won that whole lawsuit, so we get to call it fire cider again.
Yeah.
No one can trademark it, I think, again. So if anyone was following the fire cider controversy there, And with fire cider, it's cool because you could do the classic, but you could also, as you have done, do so much with it. In fact, there's a fire cider book that I gave my friend Heather. She's not here today, but usually she joins us, and she loves making all kinds of stuff, and she has a big garden, and I was like, she loves she loves spicy stuff, and so I gave her that book, and she's like, yes, it's awesome.
It is great. It is great. And, I taught a class a couple of years ago at Villagers, and it was a really great class. Had a lot of people in there. And I told them, I was like, think outside the box. Yep. Like, here's the basic recipe, but, do something crazy. And I got so many pictures back, like an email. Look at this fire cider I made. Oh. It was so cool. And I was like, that's awesome. So, I mean, there's just so much you can do with that. And I've enjoyed making fire ciders, but I switched over a little and started adding in infused honeys.
Nice.
And, I'm going to tell you right now, that was hard. And it took me a long time to figure out what I needed to make it worth my while.
The honeys.
If you've ever made an herbal infused honey,
I have. I've made a ginger. I love making ginger infused honey. I made a garlic one. Yep. I was like, hey, during COVID, the beginning, like garlic. There was no garlic. You couldn't hardly find it. So I'm like, I'm gonna make a honey because it'll preserve the garlic, and if we get sick in any way, we'll have it. And then also the ginger too. But so yes.
They're hard to make, especially when you're making in bulk and you want to bottle them, because you don't want to waste. I mean, again, as herbalists, we're caretakers, so we want to take care of what we're doing, and we don't want to waste any honey. I mean, you think about that. A teaspoon is the equivalent of what one honeybee makes in its lifetime. So you've got to, have that sacred frame of mind. I don't want to waste anything. So it took me a while, but I finally found some things that helped me not waste. And, I've even had some herbalists say to me, I'm glad you're doing it because I don't want to do it.
Yeah. I mean, it's okay if you're doing it. Like I'm making like some for us, right? Like, and it lasts for, well, I have to usually hide the ginger honey from my husband because it's fantastically good. Yeah. But, it lasts for forever. Honey doesn't go bad. So as long as you've done it right, where you're not getting any mold or moisture or anything. And for some reason, like ginger honey, I learned that it's herb school. So I went to the Appalachian School of Holistic Herbalism, and I took, I think, in one of their foundation classes, and that's one of the things we did. And I had never heard of infused honeys before, and it was like, oh, what is this ambrosia?
Oh yeah. Well, it's funny because I took a class years ago, and I'm gonna say this wrong, and I know, is it Sierra Foley? Sierra.
Like she explained it like you sear a steak.
Sear a steak. Okay, very good. I like that.
Yeah. Because I didn't know either.
I love her to death, and I took her honey class because she's a beekeeper, and I was just enthralled by it and loved it, and started making all these honeys when I came home. And I knew that was a path that I wanted to go. I just had to figure out some of the legalities with it. And now I have a beautiful line of honeys, and I love them all. I use them all. I sell a lot of them, and they're beautiful.
Honeys. Yes. I'm perusing. We've got a chai infused elderberry chai. Ooh, golden milk. Nice.
Yes. And it's interesting because a lot of people are like, what is golden milk? So I had a little craziness happen my first year of business. I also make a shelf stable elderberry syrup.
Was it a copyright?
Yeah. So Gaia Herb sent me a cease and desist. This was right at the holiday time. It was like December 1st or something. And I did have a website at the time. It wasn't a great one, and I hated it. So I didn't do a lot of upkeep on it. But anyway, I don't know how. They took a picture from when I was at Mother Earth News Festival. And they were like, you have to take Gaia off. And it really pissed me off because, at the time, fire cider was not, we couldn't use it.
That yeah.
So I had chosen this goddess form to be like, because the name of my fire cider was Gaia's Fire. And like the elderberry syrup was Gaia's Fruit. And, I was just trying to really focus in on the goddess form energy. And, they sent me a 3-page list of all the terms that I could not use.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I even contacted Mary Blue, she was one of the 3 fire cider people with Rosemary Gladstar, and said, I need some help in having, how to deal with this. And she gave me some very good advice. And I did change everything, but you know what? What came out of that was even better. And I had to focus on a new energy. And I chose the kayak, which was also a Celtic goddess that I, already had some ancestry with. So it really opened a door for something else that I was pleased with.
Oh, right. Okay.
But I did that with golden milk because golden milk is trademarked. And
I did not know it was, actually.
And I did not want this to happen again. I would love to be able to, do something with all my names, but it's so expensive and I just can't. So I'm hoping that if I can focus on words because gilden is the old English word for golden.
Golden. And I knew what it was,
Yeah,
but just because I'm like, oh, obviously anything that looks like gold, it's like, oh yeah, there's a milk afterwards, and my brain likes to, put things together in weird ways. So like,
but see, that's part of the whole legal world that nobody sees, on the outside. But we deal with every day on the inside. When we're making products, we have to make sure we're not copywriting somebody else's, or if you are using something that someone else uses, don't get caught. It's just one of those things, which I hate trademarks. I think it's copyrights. I think it's crazy that people can copyright words.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the things that was really cool about the whole fire cider thing. Rosemary's like, here's this recipe, you can use it, you can use the name,
right?
But somebody else just went out and copyrighted it. And so, it was a real fight just to like, hey, we don't want this copyright paradigm. Rosemary set the precedent. I don't know, maybe there'll be more of that. I don't know. It's really hard because when the herbal world hits like the corporate business world, it's just because as herbalists we think a different way, or in our head or not. And also like business is so probably needs to change. Because
even the word thieves, a company has copyrighted thieves. And that's why I have Queen of Thieves, on my thing. I'm just telling you, it's crazy. Like I had to do a lot of work, and I changed during that time, but I feel like it happened for a reason because I had to really do a little bit more research on my names and words. And so that takes, I'm glad that happened. I'm glad we got that letter, even though it was a pain in the ass for a little while, because I had to change all labels. I had to do all this stuff. It was a good change.
Yeah, you got to sort of really dig a little deeper and come up with something that was even better. Yeah. So you've got vinegars, you've got the honeys, you've got salts, you've got salves, tooth powders, lip balm, hair rinse. So you do elderberry syrup and of course the fire cider. So you do a wide range of.
I do. I don't carry
products.
The only things that I carry to market are foods.
Okay.
Everything else, and I even don't have everything on the website. I offer it to my wholesalers, and there are a few that I sell a lot of those body care items. But I'm, like I said, this year I've been really kind of evaluating where I stand with all of that. And I don't know if I'm going to continue doing, the body care. Just because it's just a completely different, it's completely different from what I make on the other side. So it's taking some energy away from that. So anyway, but this is the time to reevaluate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I do the body care, but yeah, I think it has its slightly own different rules and other stuff, you know.
It's
Yeah,
just
you don't.
different from food. So it's like, okay, do I really want to be doing both? You know, continue doing both. You know, more people. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
and then it's fun because they're like, what are you doing with this? You know, and you get the opportunity to teach somebody about this wild food, which is even more important to me, I think, sometimes than just the business itself. Because one of my very first experiences where I started being a little more adventurous and asking people, like I would drive by, I'm always on the lookout for places. And I drove by in South Carolina this home one day, and I mean, the entire yard was filled with violets. And I had never seen that many violets in one spot, you know? So I jump out of the car, and it's this older couple. They were in their 90s. And one of them was like cutting the grass.
We're going to stop cutting the grass.
So I said, hey, you know, would it be possible if my family and I came back a little bit later today and picked some violets? Do you spray your yard? And we went through the whole thing. She's like, nah. She goes, I would love that. And then like she sat out there with us for a good bit of the time, and she's like, tell me about this. What do you do? And like she ate some. She goes, I feel so naughty. It was so much fun. And I thought, you know what? People have just forgotten.
They have.
Because like as we were sitting there, she's like, I remember my grandma used to do blah, 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 you know, and I'm like, we've just forgotten. It's there. And all it sometimes is just that first bite. And you're like, oh, yeah, you know, I've done this before. Somebody's done this before.
Someone's done it before. Like I feel like somebody in my family in the past have done this before, because it doesn't feel it's unfamiliar, but it doesn't feel unfamiliar at all.
Because we get so used to just doing all the modernized things. And it's funny because I was with my grandmother one day, and we were in her kitchen. She cooks green beans, the best I've ever seen. And we were just talking about stuff, and we were talking about ferments. And I said, you know, I need to find a stone that I can sit in the top of my jar to help with ferment. This is when I had first started doing that. And she goes, you know, it's interesting that you say that, because I remember my grandmother, she would always say, the beans are for the body and the stone is for the soul and the spirit. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And she's like, she goes, my grandmother, like her grandmother, always put the stone in the pot with her beans. And she goes, in fact, I have some of that stone. And because she had several pieces of this stone, I don't know what they are. I have it now. But she was like, you know, she did that all the time. And like, they know these things, but they have just forgotten them. They've gotten so, we get into this groove of just the modernized world, and we forget.
But you know, we've lost that connection, and it's been devalued. And so that the maybe the person that their grandma, like your grandma's, you know, like maybe she's like, yeah, I remember my grandma doing this, but like
she's not doing it.
I'm not. Yeah, like why didn't she do it? Why wasn't it like, you know, passed on? And for me, like I used the violet oil in a salve, violet leaf oil, and my parents in their old property before they moved, we had this row of forsythia bushes, and all the violets grew underneath, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
Because I would just like go and I, you know, wait until I was like, don't weed eat it.
That's right.
Wait until they're like hand big, and you would just like pick. And it was so fantastic. And then like, because I don't have that resource anymore, you know, now it's super hard to make that oil, because, you know, I'm like, okay, I you know, and it was great because they were protected under the bushes. And they were just like, anyway, so that's why I got excited about the violets.
And you knew where they came from. You knew, you know, that's another thing, because, you know, you really have to start asking those questions. What's around you? What are you putting on your yard? What do you do? You know, I mean, you still got to ask all these questions, because, you know, people are putting all kind of crazy stuff in their soil, you know.
Yeah. All the chemicals and everything else. So, you know, like that's just a wild crafting, tip.
Yeah.
So,
And I mean, my spots, I have my spots that I go to every year. I love them. I take care of them. I hope nobody else finds them because they'll decimate them. But, you know, I really try hard to really take care of the places that I go to because I want to be able to return and, you know, the plants still be living there. So,
right.
you know, it's like, again, you know, like I said, we're caretakers. We're trying to take care of the plants, but also take care of each other. And it is sometimes very fragile, and we have to really pay attention.
Yeah. So, but also if you wildcraft, don't decimate. Just take what you need. You want the plants to come back next year.
That's right.
And so um so what is your favorite tea? And what tea blend are you drinking right now? I believe you mentioned you love tea.
I do love tea. I have two that I love. One right now specifically, like I just finished it, is white pine. That's one of my favorites this time of year. Just because it really helps with the respiratory system. It's really tasty and it's very abundant.
Do you do the needles?
The needles, yes. Especially on a day like today, like this afternoon and tomorrow, I'll probably walk around our property. We have a lot of white pine. And pick up the branches because I actually use the white pine in my honeys for a couple of different things. So I love to gather the white pine. But that's a really tasty tea. It's so delicious. There's another one that I drink almost daily. It's called Didn't It Rain? It's an herbal coffee substitute.
Oh.
And if you were here back in the day when Villagers had just begun, Natalie was running that shop, and it was actually her blend, her herbal blend.
Oh, okay.
And she started selling it. And I mean, I just fell in love with it immediately. I don't know all the ingredients, but I know chaga is in it, chicory, dandelion root. It's really, really tasty. It turns this dark brown. It's beautiful. And then, you know, Kendra owns Villagers now, so she's been selling it. And it's fantastic. It's probably one of my favorite, you know, bitter teas. It's very tasty.
Cool.
So I have it every morning. And I've never been a coffee drinker. I'm not a coffee person. But that is a really good substitute.
Yeah, and I think I saw a thread on Facebook recently about making coffee substitutes, and you know, some people's successes and failures, and you know how to do a good one. And
well, I remember Natalie telling me the story behind that because she goes, I was addicted to coffee. Natalie was like a huge energy in my business when I first started because she saw me from the very beginning because I would drive up from South Carolina to her shop and get all my bottles and like earth because she had a big bulk apothecary there. We just became friends and just started talking more. And she told me the story that she's like, I was so addicted to coffee. Like I would drink it all day long. And I'm like, that is not good. She goes, no, it was not. She goes, and I started experimenting. I would, you know, buy recipe books and stuff that had different recipes for coffee. And she goes, they were nasty. And then she goes, and one day I finally came upon a recipe that just hit it. It just hit it right on the money. And she goes, I just started blending it up and it was perfect. And she's right. I mean, it's a really tasty blend.
Cool. Yeah.
So she got off of coffee with it, which I thought was pretty impressive. Because not many people that are coffee drinkers want to give up their coffee.
Yeah, I'm not a addicted coffee drinker. I do drink coffee. It's to help with my digestion. Yeah. Straight up there.
Well, maybe you should try this one because it's got some serious roots in it that are really great for digestion.
I mean, yeah, maybe like you know, sort of make an addition to it because I could always use that you know support for so actually on that note, what is the blend called?
Didn't It Rain? Didn't
it rain?
Mm-hmm. That's what it's called. So
Didn't it rain?
Didn't it rain?
Didn't it rain? And I noticed that the villagers had moved, or they're not in West Asheville anymore.
Yeah, I think. Well, Kendrick closed at the end of last year, just to kind of reevaluate and redo some things. So I don't really know her plans, but if you reach out to her, she's got it, so she can. I mean, she'll send it to you.
That's cool. That's cool. So if anyone's looking, it's
it's at Villagers. Yeah.
Villagers. This is, you can look up this on the website. On their you can look up their website. Hopefully I spelled that right.
Villagers. GERS. Yeah.
Oh, RS.
Yeah.
Anyway, Villagers, Asheville, will probably pop up when you. Oh, well, I'll find it.
I think it's called For Villagers. I think.
Oh yeah.
I think that's their like official name, or something like that.
For Villagers. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
This is it. Let's do that. They have a Instagram and a. Okay, that's in the chat. So yeah, forvillagers.com. They actually did sell my lip balm.
Yeah.
So we did a little test run, and then they reordered, and then she sold it.
Mm-hmm.
Natalie sold it,
right?
And I wasn't able to. I connected a little bit with Kendra, but I wasn't. Again, it just didn't quite happen. So, but yeah, I thought Natalie was real awesome. So, and the store is so cute.
Yeah, that's great.
Whenever they come back in brick and mortar, hopefully they do. It was an amazing store with lots of really good books.
Yes.
Yeah.
And good products. It's a lot of local products. I had my products in there, but a lot of people had their products. It was great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. So so just a couple more questions, and then we'll wrap up.
Okay.
What are your hopes in regards to like the future of herbalism? Where would you like to see this herbal thing going, evolving into? I don't something for the. What are your hopes for the future?
I would love for it to be. I would love for us to catch up with the rest of the world. You know, I don't know why all of a sudden, you know, the United States decided herbalism is like crazy and we should be doing something. We should be making synthetic medicine, and that's better. I would love to see a little bit more acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see, you know, this main. Now, granted, I know reality is it's not, because it doesn't bring money, but I would love for us to start changing our way of thinking and to hit herbs first before we head into, you know, popping pills and, you know, doing things like that.
Yes.
You know, our frame of mind needs to change, especially with food. Our relationship with food needs to change as far as that goes. So, you know, there's a lot of things that need to change. You know, I'd like to say I'm optimistic, but I do have a little bit of realism, you know, that's just not the way it's going to be, because there's a lot of big money in big pharma and things like that. And we just have to keep educating. I feel like the more education, the more someone is educated, the better decisions that they'll make. And that's just all I can hope for at this moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are good things. And then if there's be so many of us that will just overwhelm the.
Yes.
We'll just be like all making different choices, so they have to follow us.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Herbal sneak attack.
That's right. We just got to start small and keep doing it and keep doing it. And I feel like at some point, we'll begin to remember again.
Yeah.
All of us will begin to remember again. Yeah.
Yep. And
some of us are starting to. We're already in there.
Yeah, we're way in. I'm just all in. Yeah.
We're there.
Yeah. We're there. And to begin to value it, and yeah. In this so in this crazy times,
I feel like I've heard that a lot.
Yeah, it's real crazy right now. It's always crazy, but it's real crazy right now. Mm-hmm. Are there some ways in which you connect with the natural world or I didn't write this question right. Anyway,
I think I understand what you're saying.
Yes, I had it written a better way, and I've somehow messed up with this wait, hold on. I've got it. Yes. Tell us some ways in which you connect with the natural world and or stay grounded in these crazy times. That is what I meant. Yes. And already your business does connect you to the natural world. Mm-hmm.
I would say like this last year, it hasn't been as much as what I was doing before, as far as like foraging and stuff. I have kind of outsourced some. A lot of times as a family, we go to water. We always try to find water. That's one of our biggest grounding things that we do together. I do try to get out and walk a lot. If it were up to me, I'd love to walk every day because I feel like I need to clear my mind every day. Mm-hmm. But that's not always reality. So those are definitely two big ones that we use a lot of. And then another one is we have a lot of houseplants, and I know a lot of people do right now. I try to tend to those. That gives me a little bit more. I'm touching the green. Mm-hmm. I feel like that's important too. But the only way, and I hate to say it like this because then now I sound like, I don't know, doing something crazy, but really you got to get outside.
Yeah.
And you got to get away from the phone, and you kind of have to be quiet for a little while. That's really one of the, not the only way, but the best way to ground and to clear your mind of what's going on in the world. Because, again, we're back to the caretaking. We want to take care of everything, and we can't sometimes. Mm-hmm. And we can't fix everything, can't heal everything. And it can be very overwhelming, what's going on in the world. And you just have to separate yourself from that for just a few moments a day, if you can. And get outside. And even if you just walk out your door and stand on like your grass.
Right.
I mean, you don't have to take like long walks. You don't have to
sit on the porch.
Yeah. I mean, like we have these rocking chairs on our porch, and like I love to sit out there and rock. It's just, and even though we're pretty close to a pretty busy road, we're up in the woods and up above it, and we have a lot of wildlife up here. And I just love to just sit out there and watch them, and no phone. Sometimes I'll take a book and just kind of separate myself from all the technology.
Yeah. It's been, I mean, for me, like I need to, it's best if I could get outside every day. But it's been challenging of late because of the cold and also my work schedule. But it was super, one of the things I changed during my health journey, was getting outside and, and I was just thinking about, man, I need to get outside today. Mm-hmm. Take the opportunity to just, and even if it's just like 30 minutes outside.
Yeah. I do a lot of deliveries during the week, and a lot of them take me up to Boone, and I love going up there, but I always take a moment. It doesn't matter where I am. Sometimes I'll come back through Linville Caverns to go down to Asheville, and I will always get out and just kind of look at the river and look at the rocks, and just always, it never fails. I always stop because that's important, you know. I mean, even if you can't plan a specific time, just take them when they come, and just take those moments and do some deep breathing and just kind of focus on what's there in front of you instead of your phone or where you need to be next.
Yeah, get up. I mean, I feel like, you know, it's, you need that space. You need that headspace. You need, people just need it.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, yeah. All right. So, I think we're gonna wrap up here. Thank you, Lori, for joining us today. This was an amazing conversation. All of the links to Lori's website and Instagram, they're in the description. And then hopefully I'll add all the books and everything else to it, so that if you want to check any of those out, you know, you can, or you can just like scroll up to the chat there. Yeah. But it's, you know, I want to make things easy. So, please, if you haven't already, please join our Facebook group, Stories for the Earth. You can follow us on our YouTube channel, Stories for the Earth. And we also have Instagram. We are on Anchor for audio, and hopefully we'll be on like Spotify and other places soon. Awesome. Yeah. And if you want to donate, help us out financially, there will be a way to give us money on Anchor soon, but I haven't worked that out yet. So so that we can at some point take this show on the road after COVID, and
that'd be good.
Go visiting, and you know, even possibly, you know, take some trips with you, and not disclose any foraging locations. Yeah. You know. Yeah, and it would be more about how you forage and stuff like that. So I think, anyway, so we've got good plans. But I hope everyone has a awesome day, and we will see you next time.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Thank y'all.